The third edition of the China International Import Expo, or CIIE, under the theme of New Era, Shared Future, is now taking place in Shanghai from November 5th through 10th. The Chinese President Xi Jinping announced at its opening ceremony that China will further grow foreign trade and pursue deeper bilateral, multilateral, and regional cooperation. As the world's first import-themed national exhibition, CIIE comes at a time when nations are struggling with the recovery of their economies amid COVID-19, and globalization is being challenged by protectionism. What outcomes will the event produce? And as the world's second-largest economy, what can China contribute to a rules-based global trade order and economic globalization? How can internationalism and multilateralism regain its momentum? Joining us from Beijing via Skype is QIANG, Assistant Director of the International Monetary Institute at Renmin University of China. Also from Beijing in our studio, EINAR TANGEN, Current Affairs Commentator. Gentlemen, welcome to our program. EINAR, I want to start with you. The Expo is a platform, is as much a platform for trade as it is a platform for messaging. And one message is clear from this Expo: China will not follow a protectionist path. Not pre-COVID, certainly not post-COVID. The Expo is part of China's solution to its pandemic-hit economy, which calls for cooperation and further opening up. Do you think this year's Expo carries special significance against an international backdrop post-COVID?
Absolutely. I mean, what you have here is Xi Jinping sending out a very clear message that what he's interested in is very different from the world of Donald Trump in the United States. He's contrasting. He said he's opening up. They're committed to any kind of multilateral institutions. They also want to kind of get past this idea that somehow socialism and a market economy don't go together. That has already been seen in Europe and the world over, that is the case. So this was an opportunity not necessarily to have a lot of people from overseas, but simply to have a strong message at a time when the economy of the world is trying to recover. Remember, there's $22 trillion at stake here in the next 10 years. That is the amount that China will be importing.
Mr. Chu, what is your read of China successfully holding the Expo this year? What special significance does it carry?
Well, I think the first and most important significance it carried out is showing the whole world that China is now faking its victory over the pandemic. Just take a look all over the world, any responsible big economy and the major countries in the whole world who is still in a lockdown or half lockdown of the whole economy. Nobody dared to hold such a big event. But China already successfully controlled the pandemic, and they allow in the foreign guests in an orderly way, and they managed to open such a big event with so many participants covering such a large area. You know, this participant, if any one of them who has been contagious in the virus, probably have a very high stake of spreading the whole virus all over China again. But Chinese government is very confident. And I think the second significance is that it shows the whole world the confidence of the rebooting the economy. Right now, the world economy is in the hole, is in the mud. You know, nobody can move forward. China probably is the only economy among the whole world now still have a positive GDP growth. But China does not want to just hold the price for itself. It wants to help the rest of the world. China opens up, not only sell equipment and products, but import. When China opens up, 1.4 billion of people and huge demand start to buy products from all over the world, no matter how you're going to interpret that. But still, that's a good news for the economy of the rest of the world.
Moving beyond the messaging and the symbolic value of the Expo, I want to have both of you look at the more concrete side of the Expo, at the deals achieved in the past two editions. Over the past 2 years, CIIE has grown into a key channel of products worldwide which find their way into the Chinese market. The first CIIE in 2018 saw deals for prospective one-year purchase of goods and services reach almost $60 billion, $58 billion, while deals from the Belt and Road countries reached $4.7 billion. Now, at the second CIIE last year, the figure rose by over 20% to reach over $70 billion. Naturally, people would expect more deals to be signed this year, but as EINAR pointed out, not many people came from abroad to participate in the Expo this year because of the pandemic. For the participants that do take part this year, what do you think, EINAR, they can take away from the Expo this year, and what do you expect will happen deals-wise at the Expo?
Well, there was a lot of emphasis this year on luxury goods. You had, for the first time, not LVMH, the other luxury group, all the luxury groups came to China. This is really things, they brought about 14 different brands with them. A lot on there was a black diamond, very, very expensive, $37 million worth, that was on display. And I think the world right now is looking at China, especially in the luxury market, because nowhere else is buying. With the uncertainty of COVID-19, we had, 120,000 new infections in the United States alone. Europe is closing down. Almost all companies are turning their eyes to China. China powered through on this. They decided to go ahead with it. There was actually, although fewer people, there was more display space this year than before. Now remember, when I say 10 years, 22 trillion, that means that there's going to be an abrupt takeoff in terms of the number of deals that are actually made.
Mr. Chu, China is recovering economically, and as EINAR says, China is still buying, in sharp contrast to many other parts of the world. What do you think will be accomplished at the Expo this time? What do you think is in for the participants?
Well, I think for this year is absolutely a good news. I think the size and total volume of the trade and the contract will be signed probably is the number combined is more than the first and second time of the event combined together. It's even more than that. And probably you have noticed the venue, the whole area is bigger than last year. The participants, no matter virtually or physically participated in this event, is more than last year. And we've been seeing more of the long-term contractors. Most of them, the very famous world multinationals, have signed a long-term contract with Chinese government and the organizers of the event, like Shiseido, like the L'Oreal, like the Volkswagen, any nickname you have name it. Because you see, this year, even the Olympic Games has been suspended, but the CIIE has been carried on as usual. That shows the whole world the confidence. And also, we've been seeing lots of, besides the luxuries, like my coworkers has been mentioning, but also the PPE and the medicine, pharmaceutical products been also entering China. Don't take it wrong, China itself is a large, probably not only, also one of the largest producer of the medical equipment and the pharmaceuticals. But China does not want to hold this cookie jar by itself. It opened to the whole world. We're producing masks and PPEs and all kinds of pharmaceuticals, but also we're trying to introduce in other counterparts outside China. We're going to see how they're going to provide a better qualities and affordable prices, because I think Chinese market is still believing in competition, and with competition we can bring in our customers good quality and more choices and add into more utilities into this market. I think it's a win-win and win.
Let's take a look at some of China's more recent import numbers. China's imports surged by 13.2% year-on-year in September, and that was far above the 0.3% predicted by a Reuters poll. The country's import strength is lifting economic activities in neighboring countries like ROK and Japan, which both saw a jump in exports to China in September. EINAR, you mentioned how China is still buying. The vitality in China's economy is helping with this surge. What else is driving this surge? And when you look at the whole year of 2020, what is the outlook for for imports into China?
Well, when you talk about imports, you're talking about consumer demand. When you talk about consumer demand, it's about confidence. Chinese people have, in poll after poll conducted both in China and abroad, it's quite clear that the people have a strong degree of confidence, not only in the government, but also the economy. So they're willing to buy. You've seen the car numbers. They've been, up year on year. I mean, it's amazing, because over the last 7 years, the number of cars being sold has steadily dropped, but this year it has actually increased. So you're seeing big ticket items, the kind of things that you only buy if you have confidence going forward.
Mr. Chu, the Chinese demand has always been there. It is robust. It has recovered rather fast. But China has been promoting the principle of what is called dual development dynamics or dual circulation, which focuses on striking a balance between cultivating both its domestic and international market. When you talk about China cultivating a domestic market, where do imports fit into that picture? Are we to see more imports to satisfy the domestic demand, the market demand? How do China's imports factor into this mechanism?
Well, this is going to be a little bit of economics in here. You know, in a very early time, like 40 years ago or even 50 years ago, China is still an export-oriented economy. You see, the whole structure is like this. But China we set up factories and manufacturers, and then we produce all kinds of product and then services, and then meet the demand of the outside world. We build one factory, we build 10 factories and 100 factories. Most of the product are shipping outside China and meet the demand of the rest of the world. And then we earn in the surplus, and then they put into the Chinese banking systems. We have more and more deposits and surplus in the Chinese banking system. But don't get it wrong. If you don't make a change in economic structure, this circle is going to just enforce itself. So on one hand, most of the Chinese capacity production is just trying to meet demand outside China. On the other hand, a living standard and the quality of people's life is not promoting that much because most of the product is made in China but not used in China. Right now, the government has taken a strong shift. They want to balance the circle. On one hand, we have already got enough capacity to supply for the rest of the world. But also, we have a surplus or overcapacity, which already meet the demand outside the world, but also we can fulfill the demand inside China. And why we don't take advantage of it, since we already have the capacity and we have the deposit and surplus. So the government to take a very good endeavor, try to balance the two circles, and then we try to emphasize that we should give more people more income and promote their living standard. But here is a tricky question. A lot of people are asking, since China have already got such a huge supply and a capacity, why does China just try to hold this market by itself? Like I mentioned, Chinese people doesn't want to hold the cookie jar by itself because eventually it's going to be a lose-lose. With more competition, with more outside suppliers, and then utility inside the market of China will increase. And don't forget, Chinese people, when you mention about higher living standard, good quality, you mean you have diversified supply. You have, detailed and customized product. And then Chinese cannot produce it by itself. We need to import good salami from America. We need to import good wine from France and Italy. We need good car from Germany. We need good bread from Russia. So all this combining
Mr. Chu, I'm sorry to interrupt you. We're running out of time on this segment. This is a very novel concept that has garnered a lot of attention. We hope to explore further with both you and EINAR at a later time on our program. Thank you, Chu Qiang, Assistant Director of the International Monetary Institute at Renmin University of China, EINAR TANGEN Current Affairs Commentator. Gentlemen, appreciate your analysis. Thank you so much. We'll take a short break, and when we return, an Australian think tank criticizes the Chinese government Xinjiang policy. What's the impact on China-Australia ties? Stay with us.